Coming up in this Brightline construction update. This update looks at the status of the work around Melbourne in February, March, and early April 2023. The last major section of double track outside of Indian River County to complete and put into service is around Melbourne, between CP Pineda and CP Malabar. Work in this area has been minimal the past year, as crews wait for the bridges to be completed. With the bridges nearing completion, this is a good chance to look at what has occurred recently before it ramps back up significantly. I'll start on the north end, looking at the area between Post Road and Lake Washington Road. At Post Road, trains are now traveling on a section of the new West Main Line, and ballast hoppers are being stored on the now inactive existing Eastern Main Line. This running on the Western Main continues at Parkway Avenue. The reason for this running on the new Western Main is recent work at the Lake Washington, Cemex, and Titan siding just south of Parkway. I'll start with a look from January 21st, when the existing Eastern Main was still in use and preparations were ongoing on the new Western Main and extended siding. The Cemex plant here is one of the busiest customers on this portion of the railroad, so an extended siding has been constructed so that the local train will be able to switch it without blocking one of the mainline tracks, which it currently has to do. The old siding that had been here was removed over the previous couple of days in an arranged outage with Cemex for the work to be completed. Crews were in the process of aligning the new siding and spreading a layer of initial ballast for a track cut and throw and shift the following day. A new turnout will be installed here to actually enter the facility from the siding. The track will end up being cut here, with the existing main line to the south becoming a portion of the new Western Main Line. This is also a chance for a quick shout out to the hobby shop TRF Trains and M&T Hobbies, located across US 1. It has the largest selection of model trains of all scales on the east coast of Florida, so be sure to check out this awesome local business if you are in the area. This turnout will be moved and installed in the new siding at the entrance to the Cemex plant. Now the following afternoon, and the cut and throw had been completed and surfacing work had begun on both the shifted main line and the siding. Trains are now traveling on the Western Main Line, and the siding is accessed from this new turnout. Surfacing crews were working with the initial ballast and some stockpiled ballast to make the track train safe and advance the work train arriving with the majority of the ballast needed. The cut and throw occurred here, and the old turnout had been removed and shifted to the side. Track from the old siding has been stacked on the left, waiting to be scrapped. That new turnout I pointed out earlier had been moved down here to connect to the industry's internal track, as well as a portion of the rest of the siding. There will eventually be another turnout connecting back to the western main near the Lake Washington Road crossing. Since this is just a siding track, this was able to be a wood turnout. All mainline turnouts are made of concrete ties. Here is work train AFW1 arriving and dropping ballast on the shifted track. Now on February 26th, and all the work on the track shift is complete, with trains running on the West Main. The old mainline track across Horse Creek in the distance had been demolished so new approach slabs could be built on either side of that existing bridge. The approach slabs for the Western Main Line were built at the same time as that new side of the bridge was built. New ties have been set in preparation for the Eastern Main Line being built. Cemex is taking advantage of the newly extended siding with the empty cars parked on it. This intermediate signal needs to be shifted before the Eastern Main Line can be built. Wood ties had also been set for the siding extension, with the new turnout at the end ready to be installed. Here's a low-level flight along the ties. Back on the ground a few weeks later, and here's a look at those new ties from US 1. The new turnout had been installed just north of Lake Washington Road by this point. We'll now shift farther south to look at the area between Lake Washington Road and the Gallie River. Approaching Masterson Street, and the new Eastern Main Line is skeletonized, but has no ballast yet, as it has not been connected to any live track yet for ballast to be brought in. Between Masterson and Aurora, there will be a cut and throw to connect a section of the existing track with a section of the new track. Once that is complete, trains will be able to run on the Western Main, and ballast can then be brought in for the Eastern Main. The cut and throw will occur around here. South of Aurora, track still needs to be built. Track south of Creel Street has been skeletonized. Back in the air, and here's a quick look at the Gallie River Bridge. I'll have a full bridge edition coming out soon to give a more in-depth look at all the bridges featured in this video. As you can see, the second half of the bridge is complete and has a layer of initial ballast across it. The temporary work trestle is in the process of being removed. The temporary alignment north of the bridge will be removed at the same time as the Masterson cut and throw, which will end up allowing trains to run fully on the West Main between CP Pineda and CP Melbourne. And finally, a low-level engineer's eye view across the bridge. And here's the view from Sarno Road looking toward the bridge. We'll now continue south, looking at the progress from Babcock Street through downtown Melbourne. Just north of Babcock Street is the Hull Set-Out track. Just north of NASA Boulevard is the CP Melbourne crossover, which is not in service yet, though all trains are taking a diverging route from the West Main to the East Main through it. Ballast is still needed south of the crossing. A cut and throw had been completed between NASA and Hibiscus last year to activate the new Eastern Main Line across the Crane Creek Bridge. The Western Main, which was the old existing main line, has been inactive since then, while the second half of the Crane Creek Bridge is built. Through the myriad of crossings in downtown Melbourne, track work is complete. Flaggers were present at all the crossings downtown due to track work across Crane Creek and at the Prospect Avenue crossing, that would otherwise cause the crossing protection to constantly activate even though a train wasn't coming. Back in the sky, and crews were in the process of putting the track through the Prospect Avenue crossing to its final position in advance of the crossing being rebuilt. The crossing was the first to close on the project due to access needs for rebuilding the Crane Creek Bridge, and will end up being the last to be rebuilt and reopened. Here's work train AFW1 arriving to the curve between Jackson Street and Prospect Avenue. Here are the crews unloading the ballast from the solar hoppers in preparation for the curve to be shifted. Here the crews are unloading the ballast from the solar hoppers in preparation for the curve to be shifted. There was a cut and throw here last year as well, when the eastern side of the Crane Creek Bridge was put into service, and the Western Main Line has been inactive since then, and has not been shifted into its new final alignment yet either. Here they are dropping the ballast through Prospect Avenue. The track panel for the western main line through the crossing is staged on the left here. And now crossing over the bridge to head to another location to the north. At this point, the second half of the Crane Creek Bridge was complete and ready for its initial ballast. The temporary work trestle was fully removed and the bridge crews were gone. The black you see on the bottom and sides is a special waterproofing material. Here, a survey crew is checking the grade through the crossing in advance of the tamper coming through to start its work. A ballast regulator crossed over the bridge to get out of the way of the tamper. And here's the tamper. It started on the bridge doing some maintenance tamping, and then proceeded south to work on the crossing and curve. Near the New Haven Avenue crossing, a thermite welding crew was working to change out a section of rail and weld a new piece in place. They are cutting out the old section here. Once it was cut and the fasteners removed, a material handling truck lifted out the old rail. A new plug of rail is sitting on top of the truck, ready to be unloaded and put into place. We'll wrap up with a look at the area between Crane Creek and CP Malabar. A section of new track has been skeletonized north of Jernigan Avenue. The Palm Bay siding begins south of the crossing. This is the last of the FEC's passing sidings left south of Cocoa, with the rest of the old sidings now integrated into part of the new second main line. A cantilever intermediate signal will be installed south of University Boulevard. The Palm Bay siding continues under the Conlin Boulevard overpass. The Palm Bay siding ends north of Hesse Avenue. This siding is also one of the last remaining locations on the FEC with searchlight signals, but they will be gone sooner rather than later. In the air one last time, and here's the Turkey Creek Bridge. This was filmed a couple of days before the ultra high performance concrete was poured between the beams on the concrete spans. This is the ready mix truck that will be used to mix the UHPC. The bridge crews were also in the process of removing the temporary work trestle at this time. North of the bridge, there's a temporary alignment that was put into place to allow trains to cross the western side of the bridge while the eastern side was being built. It will eventually be removed. A short section of track has been skeletonized between Palm Bay Road and Hesse Avenue. Trains are running on the new Western Main here at Port Malabar Boulevard. In the distance south of Malabar Road is the CP Malabar crossover, which is currently active for trains accessing the double track to the south of it. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Also check out my social media pages.